Good morning. Ooh, I feel a little bit like, ooh. Hey, anyway, good morning. My name is Shay. We're here this morning to speak with Terry Sells. Terry Sells is a gentleman that I work with at my current job, and he is a builder. I think what I loved about Terry when I first met him, here he is. I'm gonna come get you, Terry.
Hi.
Terry!
Hello.
Good morning. How are you doing, Terry?
I'm doing well, and you?
I'm doing so well. I really appreciate you doing this with me. I was just telling everybody who you were. So we work together. We're no longer in the same community, but you are in the construction industry as I am. And what I recall about you when I first met you was just your ridiculously deep, beautiful Southern accent that I could barely understand. And
Mm.
and the more I got to know you and all of these layers of you, the more I was so like moved by who you are. You started telling me about your meditations and calm, and I was like, look at this. You can never tell who a person is by, because this country boy is breaking down some meditative practices for me.
Yeah.
So as I got to know you, and I want people to get to know you, your story is very rich. It's multi-layered. It has a lot of pain and a lot of heartache, and there's also a lot of redemption. And your willingness to be vulnerable with people, there are people who are sitting in the same things that you've sat in. And so I just want you to share of who you are, because I believe that when we share our stories, we connect with others, because invariably other people will see themselves in your story, and it offers them hope. And
Right.
hope can never be a bad thing, and connecting with each other can never be a bad thing.
Correct. So,
So take us back. So 16 years ago,
uh-huh.
I learned in talking with you that you struggle with addiction.
hmm
Can you kind of take us back to when you first started going off the rails and choosing a life, or being overcome by addiction, I should say?
Well, you know, growing up, I grew up in an area, or I really, and I pick with people about it, but I never really thought of not drinking my entire life. I didn't know people that didn't drink or use some sort of substances.
Right.
So I was 32 years old, and my girlfriend at the time, which is now my wife, asked me if I ever thought about not drinking. And I was like, do people actually do that? And
Hmm.
because she's like, yeah, people actually don't drink. And I was like, well, nobody I know. And she's like, exactly. Maybe you might want to branch out and make some new friends. So
Maybe.
yeah. So
So
um,
you saw all of the adults around you always consuming some sort of property that aided them in their lives, that
correct.
they were using as, so we're talking aunties, uncles, parents, cousins.
Yep.
That's how people navigated the world that you live. And where are you from, Terry? Can you tell everybody where you're from?
Albemarle, North Carolina. Uh,
Albemarle, North Carolina. Am I pronouncing Albemarle? It's a
yes,
mouthful.
Albemarle.
Albemarle,
Yes,
Marle.
Alma, if you're from,
Albemarle.
yeah, from there, but
But guess who else is from there?
it's about an hour
Kelly
east.
Pickler.
That's right. Yeah, she is. And no, I didn't know her. I'm probably old enough to be her father. So that's the first thing most people ask me. So,
I love that.
but it's about an hour east of Charlotte, North
Hmm.
Carolina. So,
Yeah.
but just a rural, just had a lot of manufacturing type jobs, and all of those have shut down. And so it's really, there's not a whole lot of industry in the
Hmm.
town. So that was when, I left Albemarle, moved to Concord.
Hmm.
But that's where I live now.
Tell me this, Terry, when you were a little boy or you were even a young adult, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Um, a lawyer.
A
I was
lawyer.
Yeah, I
You hear that
remember.
accent, y'all?
Yeah, I remember, you know, I think my mother had this thing that each year, you know, I would write in it what, you know, and of course you went through the policeman, fireman, but then as I got old enough to really think about it, I wanted to be a lawyer. Um, and unfortunately, I paid a lot of lawyers. Didn't necessarily. I put a lot of lawyers' kids through school,
Praise
um,
him.
but never really became the lawyer. Got a lot of knowledge, you know, but from being in court,
Did you
unfortunately, but
feel
on the
like
wrong
you
side.
did you feel like you could be a lawyer? Was the in your mind, was there the understanding like this was well within the ambit of your abilities? Could you see that?
Yeah, I could, and but as I kind of got older, you know, that I still had that in mind. But then I also looked at, I liked the thought of being a teacher and a coach because I enjoyed sports. Um, but then I ended up messing my knee up my senior year and I lost my scholarship. So
Hmm.
I ended up not going to college.
It's interesting to me how, the older we get, the more we're able to look at various moments in our lives and see different points as, oh my God, that was a pivotal moment.
Hmm.
Pivotal moments don't necessarily feel like pivotal moments when we're living them, but it certainly was a pivotal moment.
Yes.
Had you gone to school, the story that you're about to share with us could have been very different. And it's
Yes.
not being regretful necessarily, it's just being wise and open, having your eyes open and recognizing like, hey, there could be pivotal moments happening right now. Pay attention. Make as wise decisions as you can with what you have in your hands.
Yeah. So I didn't really have a college fund or, being raised by, single mother.
So
And
your
then
father wasn't a part of your life?
he was gone by when I was 4.
Okay.
Um, and I seen him, periodically, probably 3 to 4 years after that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last time I had seen him was I was 15 and I had my driver's permit and he wanted me to go with him to see my grandmother, which
Mm-hmm.
was about 4 hours away.
Wow.
And come to find out the reason was so I could drive while he drank. So,
I'm sorry.
so, so I drove up there and back
How old are
and
you at this point?
15.
15. I mean, I just really want to pause on that because, and I'm sure, I know you've gone through counseling. I know you believe in meditation. Yes, because it's a brilliant thing. And you even sent me the free app. You remember? Um,
Yeah.
anyway, it's just, I want to say to you, you did not deserve that. You were deserving of a father who knew how to occupy the space in your life and your heart with greater intentionality and love, and you needed more. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. You should never have been 15 years old seeing your father inebriated. That's not a cool thing because when we're young and our parents are our North Star, they're our
Right.
North Star. So when our parents are all over the place, it makes us feel untethered. It makes us feel
Mhm.
unheard. So I'm really wanting to say to people, to you, that 15-year-old boy was really in a situation where he is untethered to any kind of ground. Your father's getting wasted next to you. I'm
Right.
I'm taking it. This is the first time you're meeting your paternal grandmother, which already says a lot.
No, I had met her, and she used to send me cards and stuff. I just didn't see her that often.
Okay.
But I had seen her previous. So, but then after that, I don't know that I seen her again, before she passed. And then I didn't see my father again from 15. I was 41 and I got a phone call and it was my father's sister, my aunt that I had not seen. She told me, I don't think I've seen you since you were 2 years old.
That breaks my heart.
And she said, but your father wanted me to, he's on his deathbed and he wanted you to be there. And I'm like, so is he awake? And she was like, no. I was like, then how do you know he wanted me to be there? She's like, well, I just assumed he would, you know. And I was like, so what's wrong with him? And she said, well, he's got cancer and they don't think he'll make it through the night. I said, well, did he just get cancer yesterday? Because if he wanted me to see him, you know, surely he has known for more than a day that he had cancer and that this was coming. But she didn't quite catch on to what I was getting at. But so anyway,
did you go?
I did. I ended up, one of the things I've learned in sobriety and through AA and Celebrate Recovery and, you know, different recovery programs is I don't have control over anyone except myself.
That's it.
So, you know, I could be resentful and mean and not want to go see my father and all that. But, you know, I ended up, my wife and I, we went and I had the opportunity to pray for him. And I don't know if I would assume he's never been saved. But I did take the opportunity to, you know, say the, you know, prayer of forgiveness with him. And if he could hear me, you know, and he accepted, you know, Christ into his heart. And, you know, I just took that opportunity. I don't know if it registered or not, but it was, you know, something that I felt like I could give him. And I do tell people he was dying from mouth and throat cancer. So, and at the time I dipped tobacco. So I tell people, you know, if he never gave me anything else, he gave me a reason to stop dipping. So I did do that. So,
well, that's huge. That's huge. You know, it's so interesting to me. I too I didn't have a great father. He's still alive. But I think about what helped me have compassion for my father, and the compassion I hold, it's the same compassion I hold for your father is, Terry, wouldn't you hate to get at the end of this ride and not be more evolved? Wouldn't you hate that? Wouldn't you hate to get to the end of this ride called life and to know that you have sowed nothing that will last beyond your years? You didn't pour, because the only way that our lives extend beyond what they are on this earth, yeah, I believe in eternal life, but the only way that our lives extend beyond our days on this earth is that which we pour into others. So what made me have compassion for my father is like, man, I would hate to be 82 years old and not have sown anything of value and heart into anybody around me. Yeah. How did you feel about it? So you were never resentful towards your father? You were never like really bothered by it?
You know, I kind of put him, I did have a stepfather as well, which, you know, I kind of, he's actually my father, you know.
Yes, I understand.
You know, so
he did the rearing
around from like 6 years old on, but, you know, he also, you know, drank quite a bit. And, but then, you know, he stopped as I got older. But at that time when he stopped, I was at the age of where I could drink, and I kind of felt resentful that now that I'm able to drink with him, he has quit. So, but that was the stage.
How are you going to quit all the fun right when I can start doing it with you, right?
Yeah, and now you're going to stop. So, but
go on.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so tell me a little bit about, tell us, if you will. So I'm starting to see that, honestly, you were set up from childbirth to be someone who had addiction in your life. Yep. And that gives me greater compassion for you too. You know, I was just talking with my husband the other day, and I was like, You know, it's so sad. You know, I believe in hope, but this is why I believe that we as human beings who, and there's a scripture in the Bible says that we who are not strong to bear the weaknesses of those who are now weak. We
Right.
are called upon to bear the weaknesses of those, because I look at some little children, like I can go back and I can see little baby Terry, and it's like some kids don't even look like they have a chance out of the womb.
Mhm. Right.
And
Yeah.
it breaks my heart.
I truly believe that a lot of people are victims of their circumstance. You know, you grow up in an environment that, and that's the only thing you know. And until I met my, you know, wife now, I thought, you know, it was mainly factory work. The plant would shut down like twice a year. You know, at Christmas and 4th of July, that was when you got vacation,
Hello.
and that was it, you know, and you just worked all the time other than that. And it was a very, you know, monotonous, not very appealing life. You know,
Well, that's pretty amazing that in that world you were able to think, I want to be a lawyer and I think I can. Because
yeah,
honestly, you know, it is an amazing thing to dream. It is an amazing thing to hope and to reach for stuff. But I am always even more just like moved by people who can hope and dream for things that they have never seen.
yeah,
That they have never seen. You didn't know, from what you just said, you didn't know anybody professional in your life. There wasn't anybody who's occupying a professional like space, like a lawyer, a doctor, you know, an accountant. You saw factories, and
right,
yet around you, all around you, and you saw excessive use of other things to help you bear the burden of life. Because truly, if you only have 2 flipping days off, give me a fifth or a pint or whatever it is right now, because that does not sound appealing to me at all. So I
correct.
want to know, how do you think you were able to reach into that space and go, I want to be an attorney. I just want to.
Yeah, that's the wonderful thing about kids is, you know, as a kid, you have dreams, and you know, you can think of things, and just you know, you don't see the obstacles in life. Unfortunately, as we get older, and like say, it's those pivotal moments you were talking about. So when I snapped my ACL playing football my senior year and lost my scholarship,
Where were
I
you going to
knew
go?
Appalachian.
Appalachian. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and I was going to, you know, study to be a teacher, and, you know, a coach. I thought about doing
You would
that.
have been a wonderful teacher, because you are a teacher to me.
Yeah. Well, I've had a lot of people tell me I try to help others,
You do.
you know, but, you know, when I lost that, I knew already in my life, because even through high school, I was already smoking pot and drinking. You know, I usually would keep a cooler with, back then, you know, they had the little Miller Pony beers.
I'll know those.
They were little small, like 7-ounce beers.
In
And
glass or
yeah, in a
aluminum?
glass bottle. So
Oh,
Miller used to make them.
you know what? One of my clients really liked them, and I had
Yeah.
to go to the wine store. They're short, and they have the gold top, and they're
And they're
like
like,
little.
yeah,
Yes,
like fat at the bottom, come up. Yeah.
yes.
The
I
little
went and I
small.
bought him a case of
Yeah.
those.
So yeah, I always heard them as, you know, pony beers.
Pony.
So, yeah.
Just like
So,
wrong starter. So
right.
you remember, so I just want to say this real quick. You know how we all are raised in various environments, and there's always language in those various environments that we use, and we think that everybody else knows this. So when Terry was a little boy and he would put his clothes on inside out, his mother would tell him, what would she tell you?
That I had my shirt on wrong stoutards.
Wrong stouters. And
Yeah.
he would be a grown man before he realized nobody else knew what wrong stouters meant,
Yeah.
except for maybe people in Albemarle.
Well, probably not even people in Albemarle. Probably just, you know, my family, immediate family. I don't know where that word came from, but
I
Yeah, I
love
knew
it.
you would bring that up.
Wrong
So,
stouter.
yeah,
So,
wrong stouters.
so what you're saying is you remember already high school student. Take us back. You're about
Yep.
to, I don't want to stop you. Your
Yep.
ACL, you have
Yeah.
torn
So,
that, your
so what?
scholarship is blown.
Yeah. So I knew if I was going to go to college, then and not be able to have some sort of accountability like sports to keep me from drinking and partying or whatever, then I just didn't have the confidence that I would go and study, just do book work. I did well in school. I graduated, 16th in my class. It was
Good.
so, and there was more than 16 people in my graduating class. So
17. Kidding, I'm joking.
yeah, 17. But that's what people usually say. But I did well in school in my academics, so I could play sports.
Right. But when you
And
take out the sports,
I was done. And because, like I said, all I really knew was, people had gone to college. Friends of mine had gone to college and they came back and they got a job in the trailer mill building mobile homes.
went to
And
college and came back to build mobile homes.
yeah,
Huh.
because I don't know. I don't know why. But
Again, I mean,
yeah,
this is not looking down our
that's what they
nose.
knew. It's like
That's
they
exactly right.
got
It's
blinders
what
on.
they knew. It's
Yep.
what they knew.
Yeah. So I was like, what? And I was dating a girl at the time, and her brother-in-law was the plant manager and offered me a job out of high school. So I'm like, why go to college and spend all that money to come back and get a job at the same place everybody else is going to work?
Mm-hmm.
So if I've already got that opportunity. So that's what I did. I went to work building mobile homes, and it's a good crash course on residential construction.
Mm-hmm.
You learn how to build a house in a production environment, which is much easier. It's a controlled environment, whereas residential on site like we do now,
That's right.
you've got variables, the weather and the different trades and all that. But I still look at it. It gave me a lot of experience as far as the production side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of the house going down the line, now the line basically comes to the house.
That's right.
So that's my job, is making sure I schedule that the people
Supply
on the
chain.
line.
Supply chain.
That's right.
That's right.
So it helped me in that mindset.
Where were you in that time in your addiction?
Well, I had mainly just drinking and smoking a little bit of pot or whatever.
Were you feeling the circling of the drain in your life at that point, or was it still pretty all right? I'm working this.
No, not yet. I was still working, and then I was still living at home for a little while, and then my mother said, well, if you're working and not going to school and living at home, then you need to pay rent. And so I was like, which I understand now.
Right.
At the time, I'm like, well, if I got to pay rent,
I disagree.
We'll move out.
Right.
So
you didn't realize that rent that she was charging you was like 1/5 of what you would need.
Oh yeah, nothing. That was like a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
So anyway, I moved out with a friend of mine to High Rock Lake, and living on the lake. And from where I worked to where I lived at the time, I would pass like 3 different bootleg joints.
What does that mean?
So bootleg joints are, where it's not legal to buy alcohol in that county.
Oh.
So it's basically just a place where people come and, buy alcohol without having to drive 2 counties over
right.
to get it or whatever.
Those lines are so arbitrary. It's hilarious. Like, and we lived in a state, North Carolina. We lived in a state when we first moved here in 2004. You couldn't buy you couldn't buy alcohol on Sundays, or was it that you couldn't? I think you couldn't buy it on Sundays, or you couldn't buy it until after 12.
Right. Yeah.
And
And
I
it's
was
still
always
like
like,
that. I think some places still, some counties are still like that after
which is
12.
hilarious to me, because
Yeah.
it's like, so it's all right. Jesus is like, you can drink after 12.
That's right. After you do your communion, drink the wine, then go by the store and pick you up a case of beer
So
on the way home.
the reason why I like to highlight it is you realize these are just arbitrary things.
Right.
They're not
Mm-hmm.
and they're actually not very helpful, because what
No.
it does is it encourages what you just said. We went to a bootleg place and I'm like, what's a bootleg place? You're like, well, essentially it's a place that's selling alcohol because people want alcohol in a county that's dry.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now
So,
I know.
and that's what, looking back or thinking back now, that's what my dad did for a living. My biological father. So
he owned a bootleg place.
he ran. He didn't own it. He helped run. He kind of, if you want to call it a manager, he slept there and opened the door for other drunks to come and get alcohol. And then my stepdad,
he was helping.
Yeah, and then my stepdad actually ran another one. So you can kind of see
this environment.
Yeah, the pattern. My mother is she likes to, I think it's like she wants to save people. And I find myself trying to do that a lot of times, which gets me in trouble.
Right.
Trying to, I see someone that I feel like I can help, and sometimes it's not very healthy. I did air quotes there, but healthy.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's it gets me in trouble, or has, sometimes trying to do that.
So tell me, okay, so now we're progressed. You have gotten your first job. You are living your life. You're consuming what you've seen everybody else around you consume in order to bear up and shore up the burdens of their lives and things that they're encountering. So one, what I'm hearing is learning no skills emotionally. No emotional skills am I hearing in this story.
Mm-mm.
So I want to know, take us from that point to rock bottom. And I also want to know after we get there, how does meditation, how do things come into your life that help you change it and turn it around? So take us from, I'm now the manager, I'm drinking and I'm enjoying life. How do we get to rock bottom? Where's that? What's that distance look like?
So so there's, a few bottoms. Unfortunately, I'm a slow learner in that aspect, I guess, because, I, again, never thought of not drinking. I was just trying to figure out how to drink successfully. And
wow.
And I know that sounds crazy, but it was, I tried my mother would tell me to be home when the street lights came on. So I would leave the beer joint or the place I was drinking, the bar, to go home before, it got dark. But, they'll still give you a DUI in the daylight, not just at night.
It's a funny thing.
Yeah.
Because drunk is drunk.
Yeah. So
it's crazy.
Yeah. So, but anyway, from the point of moving out, I was, continuing to work. That's one thing my mother did teach me is, you be dependable, you go to work, your own time, punctual, these are things that, that I've always, even after DUI, I would be at work the next morning and on time, even though I spent most of the night in jail. So,
shut up.
Yeah,
so you could have spent the whole night in jail because you got arrested on DUI, and you would and you would get released in the morning. You're like, gotta head to work.
Yep.
Wow.
So I didn't miss the next day, because then I knew I needed to work even more, because I had to somehow pay for this. So to bottom, when I was 21, I got my first DUI.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Were you
and
embarrassed? Were you surprised?
well, I felt lucky because I fell asleep while I was driving. Me and a couple friends had gone to Charlotte, was on the way home. I had a designated driver, but he was the first one to pass out. So
So I
again,
guess he wasn't a designated
yeah,
driver.
yeah, it didn't work out
Our
as well.
choosing
Yeah,
modality may need to be tweaked a little
right.
bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it was during the week and I had to be at work the next day. So I was like, well, it'll be all right. And I drove from Charlotte, and like I said, I lived
An hour away.
well, probably more than that at the time because it was, High Rock Lake. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a pretty good little drive. And so I
You fell
fell
asleep
asleep.
while driving?
Yes, and went across the line and hit the ditch on the other side of the road.
Yeah, that
And
is lucky.
yeah, was down in the ditch, stuck, and police officer knocking on the window, and I'm still half asleep, and look over, and there's a policeman at my window, and he's like, "Take your foot off the gas." I'm like, "Dude, how fast can you run?" Because I'm still like, "What's going on?"
What's
So,
going on?
yeah, so I'm waking up, and
Wait, real quick. How long do you guys think you were there in the ditch before the police knocked on your window?
he was behind me.
Oh,
Um,
so he saw it
he
happen.
he seen yeah I went through a little town, and he seen me coming through town, and he's like, yeah, this, I don't know if I was swerving. Like I say, I kind of blacked out between Charlotte and where the cops knocking on the window. So
That's scary.
yeah, it is very, and I'm very fortunate through all of this. I didn't hurt myself or anyone else,
Uh-huh.
um, because I know people that are seriously hurt, that they weren't drinking, they just got hit by a drunk driver,
Yeah.
and
And the drunk drivers are always just so loosened that they
yeah,
live.
it's
They
just
keep
like,
living. Yeah.
yeah, so
So
I,
at that
I don't know.
moment, was that a wake up at all for you?
It was a little, I guess, because it kind of scared me, and so I stopped driving, while I was drinking. But
You're like, I'm
then
not stopping the drinking part, but what I
right,
will
right,
do is not drive, which,
right.
hey,
That's
that's a start.
yeah, but that didn't last, because when I went to court, the police officer that gave me the ticket had gone back to school, didn't show up in court. So then he turned around and said, so if the arresting officer don't show up in court, they don't have any evidence.
That's right.
So, and so they had to, dismiss the case. So I got out of this DUI.
Okay. So now I want you
But
to take me from there. How does it get worse? Where does it get to the place where it's like, I got to come up for air. I can't breathe.
yeah, well, then I got DUI number 2, and
How
then
many DUIs have we had?
I've had 5 total.
Okay. So take me, this is crazy.
Right.
Take me to 5, because
Yeah.
I'm clearly, you're feeling bad enough a little, and you do some, temporary modifications, but
Right.
not anything that's lasting. So take me
Right.
to, I'm going to call the 5th DUI, where it has knocked itself into your brain and you know you have to get your act together. Take me to that place.
Okay. So just, and I got all 5 of these between the age of 21 and 32. I ended up getting out of 3 of them.
How? Oh, because the officer may not
Well,
have shown up or
that
something?
was the only one. The other 2, the lawyer that I had got me out of them. Which is, and at that time it was tough to get out of them. But somehow, I to this day I really don't know how. But so anyway, I got out of 2 or the 3 the two I was was convicted of were far enough apart that they were both first time offenses.
Mm-hmm.
But number 5, that one I blew a 16.16, which is twice the legal limit.
What is the legal limit? Because I don't know.
0.08.
Oh.
Yeah, it used to be 0.10 and then it dropped to 0.08. So, and if you blow up above a 0.15, you end up having to put this, the intoxilizer thing on your vehicle. You have to blow into
Right. Before it can start.
Right. And, it's not just to start, you have to do it to start the vehicle, then it'll beep and you have to blow in it again about 5 to 15 minutes later while you're going down the road.
Wow.
Then again, about 30 minutes later, you'd have to blow into it. And then after 1 hour, you have to pull over, turn your vehicle off, and start all over. So very,
wow.
Yeah. And at that time, I was working for myself and traveling. So it was almost like if I had a long distance, I was winded just from blowing in that thing. So, but anyway.
Like you done run a half marathon.
Right. So, but so number 5, let's see, it was March 15th of 2004.
Tell me how you're feeling. What is going on in your life?
It was, me and my wife were just dating at the time. I called her from jail and she told me that, I can't do this. This is just, this isn't going to work out between us.
Not working for me.
Yeah. So it kind of opened my eyes a little, made me think. So, because again, the world I was in was a world of enablers,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just unlucky, and yeah, 5 times is not unlucky.
Yeah. I mean, and you know what? Understanding the environment that raises a person, it doesn't excuse behavior. It just gives context. So the truth is, I understand the environment.
I'm still responsible.
That's right. That's right. You're still responsible for your actions. That's correct. Exactly right. But it helps us on the outside not be so quick to judge you and be like, you're a horrible person, and to at least have context to say, to be honest, addiction raised you. Addiction raised you and it surrounded you. So for you not to be ensnared in addiction in any way, that would have been the miracle, right? So, so now you're someone who's living in addiction. Are you feeling bad? Are you feeling like your world is disruptive? I want to go to the emotion of it because that's what's going to connect with people.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, really, this is the bottom. I'm feeling useless. Like, what are you doing? What, you have no direction, no, you're off the rails, dude, and you need to get your stuff together. And so, and through all of this, no one had ever even mentioned to me, whether it was lawyers or judges or any, about going to some kind of, 12-step program.
Are you kidding me?
Uh-uh.
We're going to put a breath analyzer on your vehicle, which thank you for stepping me through that because I didn't know what that looked like. We're going to do all of that. And we're not going to talk to you one moment about seeking help for sobriety.
Nope. I'm sorry. They make you go
you weren't
to,
so well.
Right. They make you go to these classes after you're convicted of a DUI. You have to go to these classes, get your license back.
Sure.
So, but you have to pay to go.
Right.
Just like that intoxilizer they put on your vehicle, you have to pay for the privilege to blow in this thing to drive your vehicle.
Sure.
So it's, that's all about the money.
Okay.
So.
Were you scared at this point? The love of your life is telling you, bruh, I'm not doing this anymore with you. I'm done.
Yep.
You are from a family where there hasn't been a lot of emotional support.
Mm-hmm.
So I can imagine at this moment, are you feeling alone in the world?
Yes, very much so.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I get out, and after I get out of jail the next morning, I, I call my wife or girlfriend at the time, and
That's
we
right.
talk, and she's, she's like, well, you need to get some sort of help.
Mm-hmm.
And what about, maybe going to AA? And I'm like, don't you have to be, court, assigned to do that, or, or whatever? And she's like, no, it's, free to anybody. And so I was like, okay, because at the time I'm thinking about how can I, get my girlfriend, we used to pick some of the old timers in AA, talk about getting back in the big bed instead of having to sleep on the couch, So, us alcoholics would do
Just
whatever to make
to,
mama happy.
to get in
So
that big bed, Lord.
yeah, get
Get
back
in
in the
that
big
big
bed
bed.
with mama. So I'm like, yeah, okay. So on St. Patrick's Day, I'm sitting in my first AA meeting and thinking about drinking green beer. So because
Wow. Which, to be honest, why should you have been thinking anything else? This is your first time.
right,
You've
right,
been living a life of addiction. Did you
yeah,
do drugs as well, or alcohol
yes.
primarily?
Well, when I put alcohol in my system,
There was no
then
telling what you would do.
yeah, anything and everything else was fair game. If
Wow.
it came across the table, I
In
was,
it.
yep. So
Were you ever scared to utilize drugs?
no, not really. Unfortunately, I
True.
just went, just what everybody did. I just went along, and so
Someone had
I
just said
was,
at the bottom, and it's the truth, and that's what I'm trying to get to. We have addiction, he says, because we are in pain. So we need to look at the pain and not the addiction. And the pain that's in your life is that honestly, you don't have love.
right. Yeah, until I went through all of this,
Mm-hmm.
and and then met my wife now. Never really had anybody that was trying to point me in the direction of doing something different. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said earlier, I was just trying to figure out how to drink successfully.
Successfully. Yeah.
And you know and it
Because it was the
finally.
tool that every person you knew utilized in their lives. So why wouldn't you? So you're just like, maybe I'm not doing this right because
Right.
I keep getting busted.
Right.
But clearly, this is the tool that you're supposed to use to get you through life and to numb the pain. And the pain, right? What I'm seeing is you're feeling isolated, you're feeling unloved and supported.
Mhm.
And like to Viktor Frankl's point in the book Man's Search for Meaning, we need three things to feel like we have meaning and purpose in our lives. We need something to wake up to and do in the morning, like something that Terry, that Shay has to do. And we also need to exist in community. We need to love unconditionally and be loved unconditionally. And the third and final thing is we need to be able to look at our difficulties and hardships through a redemptive lens. You
Mhm.
did not have any of that, actually.
Right. Yeah. And so with after that fifth one, and I started AA, and I'd like to say everything clicked and I was great, but I did drink. I probably went about 2 weeks without drinking,
Mhm.
and then I was, that alcoholic mind starts saying, well, you could just have one, because I did. Yeah, so I kept going to the bar because that's where all my friends were at, and I was just going to go and drink water, and that lasted about 2 weeks, and then it was like, well, I just have one or a couple, and so,
Or
but
five.
yeah, and ended up there easily or more usually, and so it was April 23rd, and I was going home, and my wife or girlfriend at the time was coming to meet me, and she called and she said, have you been drinking? I said, just a couple. And a couple for, was, 8, 10. beers, whatever.
We're going to be
And
liberal with a couple. We're going to be liberal
right.
with that
Oh yeah.
interpretation.
Oh yeah. So my
A
wife
couple, a
was like,
dozen,
well,
you know.
tell me, yeah, my wife was like, well, tell me this. If you were to be pulled right now, would you get another DUI? And I was like, just took a deep breath, and I was like, well, that thing, blah, all these excuses, but bottom line, yes. And she said, well, you know what? I'm going to let you think about that tonight, and I'm not coming to meet you. So you just think about it, and, let me know what you come up with. We'll talk tomorrow. And that was the click.
That was the click. For some reason, that was the click for you. Now,
that was the last time I'd had a drink, April 23rd of 2004.
Wow. 16 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That is a big, maybe, and I don't even know why that moment, we don't know why certain moments materialize in our, bottom line, but, or bottomed out moment, but that was a bottoming out moment for you, but she had already told you that before many times.
Right.
But for some reason, you heard it. So I want to ask, so you have been a teacher to me and wonderful meditative process. What did you start doing to help you live a successful life being a recovering addict? What did you do? What did you use to fill in the holes of the pain?
Right. So, I continued going to AA for probably 8 years into sobriety. I continued AA. And one of the things, I've learned is HALT. These are things that will triggers, so to speak. So HALT is hungry, angry, lonely, and tired.
Ooh, HALT. Hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. I think we all could apply that.
Yeah.
Like when you see those things in play, don't be making any decisions.
Right.
Don't be trying to do anything.
I would, to help with the time, when I first started getting sober, because I spent a lot of time at the bar. So all this free time, all of a sudden,
what do I do with it?
I don't know where it went now, but at the time it was a lot of free time. So I went and bought a tiller at Lowe's, and I started a garden. My dogs ate most of the vegetables, but it was something to do to take my mind off of alcohol. And I would go to meetings sometimes 3 times a day. You can find an AA meeting pretty much anywhere, anytime.
And I would argue to say that tiller was also, you haven't said it yet, but I want you to go there because we only have 10 minutes. That I would argue that was a part of your meditative process.
Yeah, most definitely. It just kind of, you put that in place. You've got something that takes your mind off the alcohol or the drugs or whatever. So, so I did AA. I got to a point because it talks about a God of your understanding.
And God of your understanding.
Yeah. So, which helps because a lot of people come into AA, they're mad at God because if God's so great, then why would he let all these things happen to me? Because we're selfish, we're self-centered, and it's all about us.
Yeah. And in that, in defense of feeling that, I get the, when you don't have any context of hope or healing and all you've known is pain, I get that it would be kind of hard to be like, well, if you're so good, God, what is it? But I think it's people like you and hopefully people like me who are finding the redemptive properties in these difficult moments and showing the beauty there. So here you are, you're tilling your soil. This starts your meditative process. When do you start meditating? Like, when do you start sitting down and going through meditations? And have you found it to be extremely helpful for you?
Yes. Well, and before that, my wife and I, we led Celebrate Recovery at our church for 4 years.
Okay. What's Celebrate Recovery? For those of us who don't know.
Celebrate Recovery is also a 12-step program, but instead of a God of your understanding, it's Christ-based.
Okay, I get it.
So same thing, and it's not just alcohol or addiction. It's for any hurts, habits, or hangups. So,
oh, Terry, come back. Come back, Terry. Terry. Oh, I don't know what's going on, y'all. I want to hear him tell us about his meditation because he's really a great meditator. Terry. Let me try to get him. Let me try to get Terry again. Okay, he's not here. Let's just wait because I do want Terry to talk about his meditation because he's pretty amazing at it. And I loved how the outside of Terry was like this country boy, you got country bumpkin, and he's breaking down different breathing patterns and exercises that he does that have brought a lot of peace and calm and reflective processing to his brain. So I appreciate that. Oh, Terry, let's see. Let's see. Maybe the power went out where Terry is. And therefore Wi-Fi was cut out. I'm trying to come up with reasons why he's not here. Let's see. Terry. Well, we're down to the last 5 minutes anyway. So let me just tell you this. Terry has introduced me to tremendous and beautiful meditations. He is a user of the Calm app. It's a free app. There he is. And you can buy a monthly subscription. Okay, Terry, that's all right. I was like,
my phone, apparently it got too hot. And
okay. Okay.
So anyway, from CR, then.
So we have 6 minutes, Terry. So I need you to, okay.
Wrap it up. So yeah, I got to a point where I also started the meditation. My wife and I, every morning when we wake up, we listen to the Calm app, the daily meditation. We do that. A lot of times we'll do like candlelight yoga as well. So some
See
of
there, y'all, this country boy is doing candlelight yoga. You can't tell. Go on, country boy.
Yeah, and so also I started listening to some online courses for cognitive behavioral therapy.
What are some of those online courses?
Well, it's through an app called Udemy, U-D-E-M-Y.
Yes, I know Udemy.
Yep. So that and like hypnotherapy and some of those things. So I've used those things. It's something different that I can do at home by myself. It's just getting quiet, just trying to take your mind off all the distractions of the day. A lot of times before homeowner meetings now, I even will meditate prior to going in, especially if it's a difficult customer or whatever. But so I've talking about probably just the past couple 2 to 3 years.
Have you found it to be very helpful for you, Terry?
I have.
What is the thing that you've seen? If there's one thing that you could say you've seen increase in your life since you've started your meditative process, what would it be?
Just a sense of peace.
Yes.
Just the calm inside.
The quiet, where it's not noisy.
Not getting, being over reacting to things. So just, trying to get quiet, put myself in their place, their shoes, because again, I have control over no one except me.
That's it.
And, You know, so I tell people that, you know, because of AA, where it's a God of your understanding, I tell, you know, that AA saved my life, but then CR and meditation and getting back involved with church saved my soul.
Ooh, ooh, I
So,
love that.
you know, so
AA saved your life.
mm,
Meditation, CR saved your soul. So
right.
here's one question I want to ask since we're down to our last 3 minutes, Terry. What is the one thing that you would want people to take away if you, or I should say this, if you could speak to the whole world right now and offer them one piece of advice, one piece like a nugget that has helped you live a more fruitful life, tell us what it is, Terry. Tell us.
Um, yeah, just to remember that, you know, you only have control of you. Other people, you know, it took me a long time to figure out, but there's more than one way to accomplish the same goal. It don't have to be Terry's way. You know, it can be done in a different path to, you know, get to the same objective. And so, you know, so taking care of me, because it's just like in an airplane when they tell you when the, you know, air mask or whatever drop, tell you to put yours on first
Before you can get to the baby.
yeah, because if you don't take care of you, then you ain't worth crap to anybody else.
That's
So,
beautiful, Terry.
so
So
you
I
have
want to add,
to,
I appreciate you sharing that. I'm only moving fast because I see that we have literally
right.
2 more minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick question. And I loved watching Inside the Actors Studio with James Lipton. Those who have watched me before know that I do this at the end of my my interviews. So I'm going to ask you some questions.
Okay.
What sound or noise do you love?
Birds chirping in the
I love
morning.
it.
Yeah.
What sound or noise don't you love?
These vehicles with the mufflers, the bumblebee, you know, whatever.
I don't
Yeah,
like it. I
yeah,
hate that too. That's so
yeah,
funny. I don't like that.
yeah.
What is your favorite word?
Recovery.
Recovery.
Yeah.
What is your favorite curse word?
Whoo. There's so many with just say 4 letters.
4 letters.
Yeah,
There we are.
yeah. So, and that covers a bunch of them, but we'll just say
Yeah.
it's a 4-letter one. So.
I love it. I love it. Last question. If heaven exists, what do you want God to say when you get there, Terry?
Job well done.
Job well done.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Terry. Thank you. Thank you for this time. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing some methodologies that you've used on your way out of addiction and what helps sustain you in a recovery life.
Yeah.
You are a beautiful soul, and I appreciate you for sharing yourself with me and our viewers.
Yep. And one last thing, it's recovery is not a one time, you know, you get a certificate and you graduate and you're done. It is a lifetime process. You have to continue. If you don't, then you will easily slip back into either relapse or, you know, just because I don't have alcohol in my system anymore, it doesn't mean that I'm, you know, because I talk about alcohol is just a symptom of my disease.
That's right.
So, you know, you can remove the alcohol, but there's still all the other isms in alcoholism. So,
yeah, no, and I think that's what you help people with, is because you're pointing them to different. I'm about to get shut off. You're pointing them to different things that help them to live a life of recovery, because it's a process.
It is.
I love you, Terry.
Lifetime.
I love you for sharing space and time with me. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you.
Peace.
Take care. Bye.